When someone appears to be happy without you, particularly someone you once shared deep emotional intimacy with, it can trigger a profound sense of confusion, loss, and even betrayal. But one of the most important realizations you must come to terms with is that appearances are not truths, especially in the modern age, where people are not only encouraged, but often pressured to display their emotional state in ways that make them appear successful, well-adjusted, and happy, regardless of what's actually happening beneath the surface. That smile you see in her pictures, the laughter you hear in her stories, the seemingly confident steps forward she takes without you, all of that can be, and often is, a constructed response to the pain she's managing internally. People pretend to be happy not because they are inherently deceptive, but because pretending is a necessary psychological strategy when you're trying to hold yourself together. Especially after loss, after heartbreak, and after the collapse of something meaningful, people rarely have the luxury of collapsing publicly. There's a natural instinct rooted in dignity, pride, self-protection, and survival that drives individuals to project strength, because projecting strength gives them the time and space to begin constructing the emotional scaffolding they need to function again. She may appear fine, but you have to ask yourself, what would you be doing in her place? Would you post your vulnerability raw and unfiltered for the world to see? Would you broadcast your confusion, your emptiness, your tears at 2 a.m.? Probably not. And if you did, would people respect it, or would they scroll past it, perhaps even judge it? We live in a culture that punishes emotional exposure as much as it claims to value authenticity. That contradiction makes pretending not just common, but often necessary. You must also consider that she might not be pretending for you. You're not the audience she's performing for. She may be trying to convince herself. That's a different kind of pretending, one that's more about self-preservation than manipulation. Sometimes when someone smiles after heartbreak, it's not because they've forgotten what was lost, but because they need to believe they can survive without it. In that context, the surface happiness becomes less of a betrayal and more of a lifeline. The mistake many people make is assuming that because someone looks better off without them, they are better off without them. But human emotion isn't linear. You don't go from sadness to joy in a clean sequence. People grieve in waves. There may be days when she truly feels free, lighter, maybe even grateful for the space that ending gave her. But those feelings can be followed, even in the same hour, by sadness, nostalgia, or longing. And you won't see those moments. You won't be there when she pauses in a quiet room and remembers the warmth of your hand. You won't witness the silence after a celebration where she realizes something's missing. You won't hear the sigh she lets out at night when everything feels like too much. Just because those moments aren't made visible doesn't mean they don't exist. Understanding this isn't about holding on to false hope. It's not about convincing yourself she's miserable or waiting for her to come back. It's about recognizing that the story you think you're seeing isn't the full narrative. It's a curated window, and often a fragile one at that. That knowledge should not make you cynical. It should make you compassionate. Compassionate toward her, yes, but more importantly, compassionate toward yourself. You're not being replaced or forgotten as easily as it may seem. People don't erase history with a smile. The reason this matters is because what you believe about her happiness can deeply influence your own healing process. If you become obsessed with the illusion of her thriving, you might collapse into bitterness or shame, wondering why you're still hurting while she seems to be soaring. That comparison will poison your growth. It leads to self-sabotage, to despair, to resentment. all of which are distractions from the real work, your own transformation. But when you understand that what you're seeing may be a mask, not a lie, but a coping mechanism, you can let go of the need to match it, compete with it, or disprove it. Her apparent happiness without you is not the verdict on your worth, nor is it the summary of your story together. It is, at best, a temporary survival mechanism. What you must do now is build something real within yourself, not just something that looks good, but something that is good, something rooted not in appearances, but in truth. Let her pretend if that's what she needs to do. You don't have to. You have something better available to you, the courage to face what's real and the discipline to rise from it. When a relationship ends and you're left staring at the aftermath, it's easy to become consumed by what the other person is doing. You find yourself watching her, not literally maybe, but digitally, emotionally, psychologically. Every post she shares, every update she makes, every change in her life feels like a message directed at you, even if it's not. You analyze the smile she wears, the clothes she puts on, the people she's with. You wonder, is she happier? Has she replaced me? Is she showing me that she's better off now? This line of thinking is seductive, but it's a trap. It keeps your energy locked in the past. It builds a prison of comparison that you're both the guard and the inmate of. And the longer you sit there wondering how she's doing, how she's coping, whether she misses you or not, the more you abandon the only responsibility that matters now, your own growth. Focusing on her performance, and make no mistake, much of what people show to the world after a breakup is performance, distracts you from the pain you're meant to process. When you spend all your mental energy reading into her actions, trying to decipher her emotions through the filters of social media or the hearsay of mutual friends, you delay your own healing. You shift your attention from the one thing you have the power to change, yourself, to something you have zero control over, her. And here's the hard truth. It doesn't matter whether she's pretending to be happy or actually is. Either way, the result is the same. The relationship is over, and the next chapter is yours to write. You have to understand that the story you were a part of with her has ended, and no amount of analysis will rewrite the past. The only thing that matters now is how you respond to what's in front of you. Your pain is not something to escape or numb through distraction. It's a teacher, and if you allow it, that pain can reveal things to you, not just about what went wrong in the relationship, but about your character, your patterns, your emotional depth, your capacity for resilience. That kind of insight only becomes possible when you stop watching her and start watching yourself, honestly, consistently, and without excuse. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Who were you in that relationship? What were you proud of? What do you regret? Where did you show up small? Where did you fail to communicate, to listen, to love fully? These are not questions designed to make you feel shame. They're questions designed to help you grow, because growth begins where avoidance ends. Focusing on her happiness, real or perceived, keeps you stuck in a reactive state. Growth requires you to become proactive. You have to reclaim your identity outside the context of her. You are not just the person she left or the person she's no longer with. You are a complex human being with the potential to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded than you were before. This kind of internal shift doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you choose to redirect your focus. When you stop asking, "Why doesn't she miss me?" and start asking, "Why did I forget myself?" Or "What can I learn here that will make me a better man, a better partner, a better human?" That's the beginning of transformation. You might still think about her. That's natural. Memories don't vanish just because you've decided to change, but the difference lies in what you do with those thoughts. Do they lead you to spiral into jealousy, self-doubt, and longing? Or do they remind you to work harder on yourself, to show up in the world with more purpose, integrity, and strength? Let her life unfold however it will. Maybe she is happier, maybe she's not. But her journey is no longer your compass. Your path forward doesn't require her approval or her awareness. It only requires your decision to grow, and your willingness to stay committed to that decision through discomfort, through loneliness, through uncertainty. Growth is not loud. It doesn't always announce itself in grand moments or visible milestones. Sometimes it's as quiet as choosing not to check her profile today. Sometimes it's staying in on a Friday night to journal about your patterns instead of going out just to feel wanted. Sometimes it's the courage to admit that you have healing to do and the discipline to actually do it. Don't waste your energy watching someone who isn't watching you. Reclaim that energy and invest it into becoming the man who no longer seeks validation from others, but builds his life so deliberately and so meaningfully that no performance, hers or anyone else's, can shake him. Your focus is your power. Direct it inward. That's where the real change begins. When a relationship ends, the first instinct many people have is to assign blame. It's a natural emotional reaction. Blame gives shape to pain. It gives the mind something to hold on to when everything feels uncertain. You tell yourself, she changed, or she gave up, or she didn't understand me. These narratives are comforting in the short term because they make you feel like a victim of someone else's choices. But if you want to grow, truly grow, you have to graduate from blame to responsibility. And that's not the same thing. Blame is about pointing the finger outward. Responsibility is about turning the mirror inward. It's not about taking all the fault. That's not the goal. It's about asking, what was my part in this? That single question, when asked with honesty and courage, can open the door to real transformation. It doesn't matter if she hurt you. It doesn't matter if she disappointed you. It doesn't even matter if she left you unfairly. Those may all be true, but none of them change this truth. You are still responsible for your own behavior, your own emotional growth, your own choices, and ultimately your own healing. Responsibility is power. The more of it you claim, the more control you have over your life. Blame, on the other hand, keeps you powerless. It ties your happiness to someone else's actions. When you live in blame, you wait. You wait for an apology. You wait for someone to admit they were wrong. You wait for closure that may never come. Responsibility says, I don't need them to do anything. I'll carry what's mine, and I'll let go of what isn't. That shift is where emotional maturity begins. It's not easy. Responsibility requires you to confront uncomfortable truths about your communication, your selfishness, your emotional availability, your insecurities, or maybe even your neglect. That kind of honesty hurts, but it's the kind of pain that cleanses, not destroys. It's the discomfort that leads to clarity, and clarity is what sets you free from repeating the same patterns over and over again. Blame keeps you stuck in the past. Responsibility moves you forward. When you take responsibility, you're not saying it was all my fault. You're saying there are things I could have done better and I'm going to work on them. That's real strength. That's how you prevent future regret. That's how you become the kind of man who won't have to wonder why things fell apart next time. Because you'll know you showed up fully, and you'll know how to recognize when someone else isn't. Now, in every broken relationship, there are lessons. If you ignore them, you will repeat them. But if you face them, even through pain, they become your foundation. Most people don't want to do this work. They want to be right. They want to be vindicated. But being right doesn't lead to peace. Responsibility does. You can't build a new version of yourself while clinging to the idea that you were perfect and she was the problem. That mindset might protect your pride, but it won't protect your future. Responsibility is also the antidote to bitterness. Bitterness festers when you believe someone else ruined your life, stole your happiness, or broke something you can't fix. But once you take ownership of your choices, your words, and your reactions, bitterness loses its grip. You stop needing revenge. You stop needing closure. You stop waiting for justice. Why? Because you're too focused on becoming someone who no longer depends on someone else's failure to feel whole. There is deep freedom in responsibility. It allows you to begin again, not as a victim, but as an author. You start writing your next chapter with purpose, not pain. You set higher standards, not just for others, but for yourself. You learn to listen better. You learn to express without manipulating. You learn to walk away without causing damage. And you learn to love without losing yourself. This is what makes responsibility heavier than blame, but also far more meaningful. It's a burden you carry with dignity, because unlike blame, which isolates and inflames, responsibility connects you to your potential. It asks you to grow, and it rewards you when you do. It is the quiet path to strength. Not the kind of strength that dominates, but the kind that endures. The kind that makes you someone worth being, with or without anyone else's validation. Take responsibility for your part in the pain, learn from it, let it shape you into someone wiser, calmer, and stronger. That's the man you're meant to become, and that's the life you build, not out of bitterness, but out of purpose. After a breakup, there's an almost irresistible urge to prove something, to her, to others, and maybe most of all to yourself. You want to show that you're fine. You want to demonstrate that you've moved on. You want to be seen smiling, succeeding, attracting attention, living as if nothing ever touched you. It's a performance, and one that many people fall into without even realizing it. But here's the problem. Pretending you're okay is not the same as becoming okay. Surface-level confidence is not the same as deep internal peace. And a life built on image is a life vulnerable to collapse. When you play pretend, you're not actually healing. You're hiding. You're avoiding. You're covering up wounds that need attention with distractions, validations, and temporary highs. You might surround yourself with noise, parties, dates, busyness, just to avoid the silence that asks you to look inward. But silence is exactly where truth is found. And without truth, there is no real foundation. No matter how strong you look on the outside, if the inside is hollow, it will all eventually fall apart. Pretending also traps you in a cycle of comparison. If she looks happy, you feel pressure to look even happier. If she moves on, you feel pressure to move on faster. If she's showing the world a curated version of her life, you feel obligated to keep up, to post, to prove, to polish your image until it becomes a mask. But the moment you start living for image, you stop living for truth. You disconnect from your actual experience. And that's dangerous, because healing only happens when you're honest, brutally honest, about what you're feeling and what you still need to face. Building truth, on the other hand, is quieter. It doesn't always look impressive from the outside. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because something in you refuses to settle for pretending anymore. It means sitting with discomfort instead of numbing it. It means asking yourself difficult questions. What do I still carry from this relationship? What patterns do I need to break? What values did I compromise? What did I learn about myself? Not just the parts that were good, but the parts that were immature, reactive, or afraid. Truth doesn't happen overnight. It's built moment by moment. It's found in choosing depth over distraction, honesty over approval, self-awareness over performance. It's making the decision to work on your emotional health, to process your grief fully, to take care of your body, to rebuild your routines, and to reconnect with a version of yourself that isn't defined by what you lost, but by what you are willing to grow into. The ironic thing is that once you stop pretending and start building truth, the strength you develop becomes real. It doesn't need to be proven to anyone. You won't need to convince the world that you're okay, because your peace won't come from their reaction. It will come from knowing who you are and what you've walked through. You won't chase validation from outside, because you'll find your value in what you've become inside. And when the time comes that you do smile again, it won't be for show. It will be real. When you speak about your past, it won't come from bitterness, but from clarity. When you love again, it won't be to fill a void or to win a competition. It will be because you've become someone whole enough to offer love without losing yourself. Let her pretend, if that's what she needs to do. Let the world scroll through its illusions. But you, take the harder path, the honest one, the real one. Stop performing. Start becoming. Refuse to fake it. Refuse to shape your healing around how it looks. Instead, root yourself in what is true, even if it's painful, even if it's slow, even if no one claps for it, because truth, unlike pretense, lasts. It doesn't shatter when circumstances change. It doesn't need constant attention. It grows quietly but powerfully. And when you build your life on it, when you build yourself on it, no one can take that from you. Don't just try to look strong. Become strong. Don't just try to seem happy. Build a life worth being happy in. That's not done by pretending. That's done by choosing truth again and again until it becomes who you are.